Welcome to Kevin Deal Photography, where I take you on my journey through photography. On today's episode, I'm going to be doing a review of the Pixel P80 video light. Welcome to today's episode. If you're not familiar with Kevin Deal Photography, I do gear reviews, tips, techniques, and tutorials, and I dive into film. If any of that sounds appealing to you, click the subscribe button below. I want to thank each and every one of you who have made this channel grow. Your likes, comments, subscriptions are much appreciated. If I'm being completely honest with myself though, my video lighting has been very inconsistent. They say timing is everything, and Pixel, out of the blue, reached out to me and asked me to review their new P80 light. Because I feel like my lighting has been inconsistent for my YouTube episodes, I took them up on their offer, and in the interest of transparency, I want to tell you that they provided me with 2 lights free of charge in exchange for a review. But like all of my gear reviews, my opinions will be completely independent and they will be my own. Free gear is completely useless to me if it doesn't meet my objectives. So let's explore what I want to get out of these lights. Number 1, it has to be my everyday studio light. Number 2, the diffuser has to look good. Number 3, recallability and presets. I have a lot of different shots that I set up in my studio. I use different lenses at different apertures. I just want to hit a button and I want my lights to do what I need them to do. Number 4, they have to be a great creative outlet for me. I already own some LED lights, and I have to shoot at 1.2 with some of my lenses and over 1600 ISO. So brightness, in addition to color creativity, are very important to me. And lastly, I want it to match my other LED lights. The P80 from Pixel is a 4500 lumen light, and it boasts a power rating of 60 watts. It has an RGB hue of 0 to 360 degrees. Its RGBW goes from 0 to 255. It's a bi-color light. It has 542 beads, 190 of them being warm white, 190 of them being cold white, and 162 of them RGB. It comes with a color temperature range of 2500 to 10,000 K, and it has a CRI RA rating of greater than or equal to 97. You can do 6 wireless groups, A through F, as well as 48 wireless channels. The weights and dimensions on it are 3.2 pounds or 1,450 grams. It's about 13.5 inches wide and about 12 inches tall and about 2.5 inches deep. So some things on paper that stood out to me with the light. Number 1, there was an app. Awesome, I love apps. I don't particularly like to go on the backs of lights and scroll through menus and submenus, so the ability to control the P80 through an app was definitely appealing to me and something that I wanted to check out. The color temperature range definitely stood out to me. 2500 to 10,000 Kelvin. That is a very wide range of color temperature, wider than I'll ever use, but I'd rather have a wider range and not use it than a more narrow range and then not be able to do what I want to do. A lot of $200 LED lights out there have fixed color temperatures that you can't change. So that stood out to me, and I thought that was kind of impressive. The fact that it's an RGBW light really stood out to me. I love the fact that I have white control. RGB sometimes doesn't give you enough precise control in saturated and desaturated situations, so having that W slider is definitely something that I want to check out. Pixel claims that their diffuser panel inside the LED light is good enough to where you don't have to use a softbox. I've been using a shoot-through diffuser to soften my light with my current LED setup, so I'm definitely wanting to check that out. The P80 comes in at $199 US, which on paper sounds pretty appealing, but that's on paper. We need to go check this light out in the field. I want to test it out in my YouTube studio. I want to test it out in my photography studio for my creative work, and I want to make sure that this light achieves everything that they say it's going to achieve on paper. So let us begin our real-world test of the P80. The Pixel LCS app, which is available for free at all major app stores, uses your phone's Bluetooth connection to control the P80 light. Since this was a primary selling point for me, and likely many of you, I say let's start our real-world test today, diving into the app. When you get into the app, you'll see this
demo project. I made this one called Studio, and you'll just click where you see the devices where it says 2. You click on that. I have one called Cabinet and one called Collins, with my son's room. I have my lights oriented based off of where they are in my house. So that's just what I call it for now. So if you go down to the dimming area, which is right here, now you'll see that we're in color temperature mode. I set my camera to 4,000 Kelvin and I have the app at 4,000 Kelvin. So as you see, I'm going to take the intensity to like 50, right about there. There we go. I'm going to hit 3,200 Kelvin right now so you can see the color temperature change. There's 3,200 Kelvin. And now you have 5,600 Kelvin. You'll see that the color temperature cooled. You also have the addition of magenta. So now things are going to be more magenta and things are going to be more green. That's your tint. Another thing I want to show you over here, when you click to the bottom left, you'll see devices. That's the devices. They always come up. It'll synchronize up. If for some reason you lose connection, you can always hit the devices and you'll have that little hourglass thing. Favorites is pretty cool. Is you'll see the favorites, you'll see one 16 millimeter 2.8, 14 to 35 5.6. Those are reminders to me to how I like to set my lenses up in the studio. I'm not in my studio right now, so when I hit these, you're gonna see the lights do different things. I'm actually at 4.5 on my 14 to 35, which is what I'm using now. But I'm not in my studio at my house where the walls are white and things like that. So it's a black box studio I'm in. So I may be a little dark, as you can see. So anyway, this is the RGBW. You can move it around. It's just an XY axis. It's very similar to what you're used to seeing in Photoshop or one of your other apps. And then of course, you have your intensity. You can change it right there. That's pretty easy. And then if you just want to do sliders, you can of course increase the amount of RGB and then W you have. So if I take out all the blue, the green, and the red, I should be white. And there you go, I'm white. I'm gonna just bring in white and blue together. There you go. And so on and so forth. It's pretty straightforward. Moving on to the hue, saturation, intensity. It's a color wheel and you can move things. The further you move things out to the outside, the more saturated it is. The more you move things toward the middle, the less saturated it is. So if you have a white, and you want it to lean magenta, you can kind of start dragging it over toward magenta, or you can go full magenta. That's a little intense. Pretty easy to follow if you're used to using a color wheel. Let's move on to gels. Gels, these are the lead gels. So I'm gonna put the intensity up a little bit on these so you can see the lead gels do their thing.
In the interest of time, I'm not going to take you through all the lead gel filters, but I'll tell you that Pixel gave you over 20 of the most commonly used filters out there on the market. I tried them out on a session with Tatum and Jesse, and I found the filters to be very useful for my creative work. Another added bonus of the P80 and its brightness is that I was able to stop down to 2.8 or even f4 to get the results I wanted, and I didn't have to bump the ISO too high. A lot of LED lights I've used in the past, I have to be shooting at 1.2 and over ISO 1600 just to get good results. Stopping down in the studio is important to me because I want to maximize the sharpness of my lenses. The P80 helps me achieve my goals of both brightness and sharpness.
If you use the lead gel filters and you don't feel like putting filters on the ends of strobes, this could make a really awesome substitute for you. Let's move on to the camera. So the camera is kind of cool. First, before I move on to the camera to get accurate color, I'm gonna move back over to the 4,000 Kelvin. Now I'm gonna move back to the camera. And the camera has a really cool thing called obtain. So I'm gonna have it obtain this kind of dark orangish reddish on my shirt. And it turns the lights that very color, which is kind of cool. Maybe you're like, hey, I can't quite get the color the way I want to get it. Just whip your camera out if there's anything that is that color. Maybe you're doing like a pregame party for a college or something, you know, University of Texas, you can take a picture of something that's burnt orange. Maybe you're doing something for a 4th of July event. You can just do the red, white, and blue. It really just depends on what you want to do. So let's move on to the special effects area. I'm starting with candlelight. I don't really feel like I'm going to use these effects very often because I do stills mainly. But if you do video and you need special effects, these may actually work out just fine for you. The candlelight one I could see myself using for stills. I've been doing more editorial work, so that may actually be an effect that I'll use. I'm going to also show you some strobophonic effects. If you are sensitive to strobophonic material, I recommend you turn off this video now. I'm not going to be held responsible for it because I did warn you. So we're going to go to SOS, which is just kind of a warning, which is kind of cool. We're also going to do a RGB cycle. This is a slow RGB cycle, which I really like. I wish I could control the speed. I wish there was a slider in future updates that would allow me to control the speed. I do hope that Pixel puts that in future updates for the phone because I really would like to control the speed of the RGB. Let's do RGB1, which is the faster one. Once again, you have fast and you have slow, but you don't have anything variable in between. We're going to do the fire engine next. This is the strobophonic effect. You've been warned. Please don't watch if you're sensitive to that. This is the fire engine. So maybe you're shooting a movie and you don't have a fire truck. You could always throw this up to kind of give the impression that the fire truck's coming. Ambulance. So there's an ambulance one as well. That's what we got going on here. EMTs are arriving on the scene. We have the police. Hopefully you won't have to encounter that and walk out here in handcuffs. This is the police vehicle approach. There's cinema. Now we're out of the strobophonic stuff. This is kind of like you're sitting in the movie theater. You're watching a movie. You get that glow kind of at random, like the scenes are changing. And that's pretty cool. And then they have 2 different lighting settings. So here's the lightning. Hopefully my autofocus won't get all screwed up from it. It'll get all confused. Like, hey, what's going on here? Why is there, yeah, see, it is getting confused. That's okay. You're still seeing what's going on here. So that's the lightning. That's number 2. Let's go on to number 1. Here is lightning number 1. That may be something that you have to do in manual focus. So those are the effects. I'm going to take it back over to 4,000 Kelvin on the color temperature. I showed you the favorites. To make something your favorite, if you have a setting that you really like, let's say I want to do something at 5,600 Kelvin. Of course, you'll see that I'm super cool now, but whatever. I'm going to hit the Save to Collection. And then when you go to your favorites, you're going to see it says Favorite 6. I can go in there, hit those 3 little dots. I can rename it to whatever I want. And you call this like 56K, 5600K. Now, if there's another thing I'd like to see them do in future updates, I like to do long, elaborate names because when I am saving things on here, I have some details that I may want to know, like maybe the percentage that things are at, or maybe I have a long lens. It's like a 24 to 105 f4. I can't even type 24 to 105 f4 USM as a preset name, so I would love to see them add more characters because I think there's like, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You basically can do 10 characters. So your presets have to be 10 characters like Studio 1 or Stud 1 or Stud 01 or something like that. So I'll save this as a 5600 Kelvin. Great. You can also go up to it and delete it, which I'm doing right now. And that's really it for the app. It's very user-friendly. If you want to turn all the lights off, let me just show you what I did here. The little arrow in the upper left to kind of go back. When you hit that, it'll be like, hey, do you want to turn all lights off? Yes, I do. You check that, then you hit exit.
And then I transition to the back panel for all of you who don't want to use apps. So there's a twist lock connector that you use to plug it in. Then you hit the power button. It's just the blue power button right there. I'm not particularly fond of back panels. I've only used this back panel once, but even I find it easy to use. So let's go over the basic functionality, which pretty much mirrors the app. So right now we're in CCT mode, which is color temperature mode. So you have your intensity, your color temperature, and then your magenta green balance. Changing perimeter settings is easy. You just scroll up and down, and then you move right to left to increase and decrease values. If you want to quickly increase the intensity by increments of 25%, that's what this button does right here. If you want to change your mode, just hit this button right here. And now we're in HSI, or hue, saturation, intensity mode. So we're increasing the intensity, then the hue, we're changing the hue, and then we're increasing the saturation. Pretty easy to use. Now we're moving over to RGBW mode. Once again, you have intensity, red, green, blue. You scroll down one further and you've got white. So you just scroll up and down, change the values. Pretty self-explanatory. Now we're moving over to the effects mode, where you can increase the intensity of the effect and scroll the effect below that. Once again, pretty easy. So anyway, that's the basics. If you want to select groups, that's what the GP button does. You can select your groups, or you can select your channels with the CH button. I don't typically use those very often. The app has camera mode. Obviously, the light panel on the back does not have camera mode. It's pretty self-explanatory there because you're not holding your camera/phone. So anyway, that's how you use the back panel. I hate back panels, but even I can get around this one, so you should be able to as well. So let's have a conversation about my personal goals to see if the P80 matches those goals. So number one on this list was, can this light be my go-to light for my YouTube channel? The two lights the Pixel provided me provide a great key light and fill light. I have the ability to flip-flop them when I need to. So I would say absolutely these lights achieve my goal of being my everyday YouTube lights. So check that off the list. Now to the diffuser. The LED lights I was using before this were just too harsh, and I'd have to use a shoot-through diffuser to put in front of the lights in order to get the diffusion the way I wanted to. Looking at the diffusion panel that Pixel puts into this light, I would say that it absolutely also achieves that goal. So check that off the list. The third thing I was looking for, can I easily recall presets? The app lets me recall presets. It lets me set up different shots at the push of a button. So I would say that number 3 on my list, being able to easily recall presets, has been achieved as well. Number 4, is the P80 a great creative outlet for me? Well, if you see the shots I took of Sophia on the intro, and then the shots that I took of Tatum and Jesse in the middle when I was testing out the leaf filters, I would say absolutely. These lights have an infinite amount of possibilities through the color spectrum, the amount of color temperature control you have, the fact that you can just grab a camera and take a picture of something. If you're having a problem nailing your colors, you can just take a picture of that color and then the lights will turn the color that you needed to turn. So I would say for number 4, it absolutely passes with flying colors. It's also bright enough to where I can stop down to f4, f4.5, which is something that I haven't been able to do before with some of my other LED lights. And lastly, does the color temperature match my other LED lights that I own? I would say yes. These bar LED lights that I own are at 3300 Kelvin, and the light that is pointing at me right now is at 3300 Kelvin. And of course, my camera is set to 3300 Kelvin, and I think that the color temperature looks very balanced. So what is my summary of the P80? I think there's a lot of photographers and videographers out there that I'd recommend this light to. I went online, I looked for lights that matched this light as far as features, how bright it got, the color temperature range, the price, the size, whether or not it had barn doors, whether or not it had an app. And I really couldn't find a light that matched the P80 feature for feature. If you buy 2 of the lights and you get the package online, I think you end up saving like $60. So if you're able to save $60 on 2 lights, yeah, I think that's a great value for 2 lights. It comes with a bag, it comes with power supplies, it comes with 2 stands. I found that there were no issues with durability. I will recommend that if you decide you want to be remote, you do need to get the battery pack for it. I do recommend getting a case for it because it's not really convenient to transport the 2 lights on your side. So I've gone through all the positives of the light, a very brief summary of the things I'd like to see them improve upon. I do think that on the app, the precision of the sliders could be much improved, but that's something that can be done in future software updates. As I mentioned earlier, I would like to have variable color control over the RGB cycle that they have. And I would like to see some more characters added to saving the presets. But those are all very minor issues. For the price, I really can't find a lot with this light that I would like to see them improve upon. Thankfully, the things that I do want them to improve upon are all software-based in the phone app, and that can be done with future updates. If you want to purchase the P80 or any variants of it, I left links in the description below. I thank all of you for watching today's video. Your likes, your comments, your subscriptions are much appreciated. I thank all of you for helping this channel grow. I've heard you loud and clear. You want the gear reviews, and I'm giving you the gear reviews. So if you like what you saw, click the subscribe button below. If you have any questions or comments about the P80, leave them in the comments below. And until next time, I'll see you soon. Bye.